What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Buzz. Jon Jones recently discussed the potential matchups between Alex Pereira and Tom Aspinall, saying that for him, both fights would essentially play out the same way. He admitted he would prefer facing Pereira because that victory would add more value to his legacy. According to Jones, his clearest path to winning against either opponent would be to take the fight to the ground, where he believes he has the biggest advantage. Jones explained that preparing for Pereira is easier because of the amount of footage available. Pereira posts nearly all his sparring, has a long kickboxing career, and now a solid MMA resume, giving Jones plenty to study. He believes Pereira's style is predictable, with noticeable tendencies in his combinations, counters, and defensive reactions. Jones feels confident he could identify and exploit the holes within those patterns, especially with his grappling strength and experience. When comparing that to Aspinall, Jones said the physical challenge would be greater due to Tom's size, but the story of the fight would remain the same. He doesn't believe the UK wrestling system is as strong as people think, and feels that if he were able to take Aspinall down, the result on the ground would mirror what he expects would happen with Pereira. In Jones' view, both men are dangerous strikers, who hit extremely hard but both also have exploitable weaknesses in grappling. For Jones, the decision ultimately comes down to legacy. He questioned whether beating someone impressive right now, but possibly forgotten in a few years, matters as much as beating a fighter who will be remembered worldwide for a long time. When asked how he envisions these fights ending, Jones said his focus would be to strike long enough to find the right moment to take the fight to the mat and finish with a submission or TTOA. He emphasized that while he can stand with anyone, the ground remains the clearest and smartest route to victory. Before moving on to the next news, we have a quick request for you. We're always working to improve our content and truly value your support. If you could take a moment to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon, it would mean a lot to us. That way you'll never miss an update. Move on to another news. Renato Moicano has fired back at Mauricio Ruffy after Ruffy recently claimed the UFC was targeting a matchup between them. Ruffy admitted he wasn't enthusiastic about the idea because he's a fan of Moicano, but Moicano made it clear that admiration means nothing in the fight business. He responded bluntly, saying he isn't in the sport to make friends. He's here to make money, and that Ruffy's comments felt like they were getting in the way of that. Moicano explained that he told Ruffy directly that he didn't care about friendship, emphasizing that this is a business and his livelihood depends on taking the right fights. He admitted he delivered the message harshly, but said he felt the need to be honest about how he viewed the situation. He recalled the moment vividly. Early in the morning, boarding a UFC shuttle to the airport, exhausted and frustrated that Ruffy had unintentionally made things personal. As Moicano described it, Ruffy was sitting in the front row with his children, which briefly made him feel guilty about the exchange. Still, he stood by what he said, reaffirming that the fight game requires a certain mindset and that emotions can't get in the way of making a living. He contrasted the hardships of fighters with the everyday struggles in Brazil, where many people work long hours for very little pay. That perspective, he said, keeps him grounded and grateful, despite the pressures and losses that come with being a professional fighter. Moicano ended by saying that regardless of how uncomfortable confrontations can be, this is the career he loves. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and sometimes you have to say things people don't want to hear. But in his mind, that's all part of surviving and succeeding in the sport. Move on to another news. Kamaru Usman believes neither Ian Gary nor Belal Muhammad deserves the next welterweight title shot, regardless of who wins their upcoming fight. He questioned the idea that a single victory should immediately elevate either fighter into championship contention, especially considering their recent performances. Usman pointed out that Gary's momentum is not as strong as people think. He reminded fans that it wasn't long ago Gary suffered a loss to Shavkat Rakhmonov, a defeat that still matters when evaluating title worthiness. Although Gary bounced back with a strategic win, Usman emphasized that one impressive performance after a decisive loss doesn't automatically justify a title opportunity. When addressing Belal Muhammad, Usman raised additional concerns, not just about merit, but about consistency. Belal has repeatedly stated that if he beats Ian Gary, he wants a shot at the title. However, Usman questioned Belal's stance given his long-standing relationship with Islam Makhachev. Belal previously said he wouldn't fight Makhachev for the belt because they were close, trained together, and viewed each other like brothers. Usman challenged that logic, asking what a fighter is truly pursuing if not the championship. He argued that competing at the highest level requires clarity and honesty about one's goals. If a fighter claims loyalty prevents them from seeking a title fight, but then demands a title shot when the champion is someone else, it raises questions about their motivations and authenticity. Usman concluded by questioning whether Belal was as close to Makhachev as he claimed, or whether he simply used their friendship as an excuse to avoid a matchup he didn't want. In his view, neither fighter's resume or choices justify immediate title cut. Move on to another news. Paddy Pimblett has stirred things up by trolling Tsarukyan ahead of UFC Qatar. The jab came shortly after Arman appeared in a segment with TNT Sports, where he played a game of winner stays on, choosing who he believed would win in various fantasy matchups featuring Dustin Poirier and other top fighters. During the segment, Tsarukyan consistently picked Poirier in matchups against Justin Gaethje, Eddie Alvarez, Michael Chandler, Donald Cerrone, Tony Ferguson, and Max Holloway. When asked about Poirier versus BJ Penn, Tsarukyan chose Penn and again picked Penn over Edson Barboza. He remained confident in himself as well, choosing Tsarukyan in hypothetical fights against Conor McGregor, Charles Oliveira, Paddy Pimblett, Ilia Topuria, and even a matchup with the current lightweight champion, Islam Makhachev, at least at 155 pounds. However, when asked about facing Khabib Nurmagomedov, Tsarukyan admitted he would side with Khabib. After the video made rounds online, Paddy Pimblett jumped into the comments with a sharp dig directed at Tsarukyan. He wrote, "Arman versus a bit of back pain on fight day. Back pain checks out," mocking Tsarukyan's previous issues and implying he wouldn't be able to handle even minor physical setbacks. Paddy's comment quickly gained attention, adding fuel to an already growing tension between the two fighters. The playful trolling comes at a time when both men sit in competitive spots within the lightweight division, making the interaction even more intriguing for fans who are eager to see if this exchange eventually leads to a real matchup inside the octagon. Move on to another news. Khamzat Chimaev has revealed that he will be out of competition until after Ramadan due to a minor foot operation. Speaking to the media, Chimaev explained that he needs a small procedure and will step away from training for a few weeks to allow the wound to heal. He said his plan is to return in the middle of March and fight whoever the UFC matches him with at that time. According to Chimaev, the focus now is simply recovering, resetting, and preparing for a strong comeback after Ramadan. Despite the clarity of his update, the announcement quickly sparked backlash across social media. Many fans expressed frustration, calling it a familiar pattern for Chimaev. Critics argued that he competes too infrequently and immediately pointed out the timing of another long layoff. Comments online suggested that this has become the most predictable storyline in the division, with some sarcastically claiming he will defend his title once every 2 years. Others remarked that the middleweight division is lucky to be shallow, otherwise a champion fighting so rarely would create major issues. Some fans even compared Chimaev's situation to Jiri Prochaska's previous injury layoff. When Prochaska needed surgery and faced extended recovery time, he chose to vacate his belt to keep the division moving. Online critics use that example to imply that Chimaev should consider doing the same if he continues to be sidelined for long stretches. Regardless of the outside noise, Chimaev remained calm and focused in his statement. He emphasized that once his foot heals and Ramadan concludes, he will be ready to face anyone the UFC puts in front of him. Until then, his priority is recovery, health, and returning stronger for his next appearance. Move on to another news. Paddy Pimblett and Ilia Topuria unexpectedly crossed paths in Qatar as both fighters arrived for UFC Qatar at nearly the same time. The brief encounter quickly made waves online after journalist Alvaro Colmenero shared a short clip of the moment. In the video, Pimblett appeared to be the one who initiated the exchange, stepping toward Topuria and speaking first. The atmosphere was tense, but controlled. Both men have a well-documented history of trash talk and past altercations, yet this meeting didn't escalate into anything physical. Pimblett approached with a short remark, and Topuria responded calmly, keeping his composure while acknowledging his rival. The two engaged in a quick back and forth before deciding to walk away without further confrontation. Observers noted that Pimblett seemed eager to say something, while Topuria focused on keeping the situation contained, signaling that the moment didn't need to turn into anything more. The clip ended with both fighters moving on, leaving fans buzzing about the possibility of a future matchup. Even though the exchange was brief, it reignited interest in their rivalry. With both men rising in popularity and consistently generating headlines, this unexpected encounter in Qatar only fueled speculation about whether the UFC will eventually book them against each other inside the octagon. Move on to another news. Islam Makhachev rarely comments on UFC politics, but when he does, he addresses what most fighters avoid. Instead of discussing opponents or rankings, he spoke openly about the promotion itself, something fighters almost never do. For months, fans have been pointing out that the UFC feels different. Weaker cards, less promotional energy, and fewer rising stars. Makhachev didn't shy away from those concerns. Instead, he confirmed them. Speaking with Udar Kanal, Makhachev said the UFC is no longer promoting fights or building stars the way it once did. According to him, there was a time when the UFC could elevate almost anyone into a major attraction because the effort and attention were there. Now he feels that interest has faded. He suggested that Dana White's focus might be divided, noting that Dana is involved in many other projects and may not be as hands-on as before. Makhachev explained that the UFC still has the power to make any fight massive, but only if the people in charge genuinely want to invest in. He believes the promotion needs to return to its earlier approach, how Dana started, how he built the UFC into a global powerhouse. He added that after so many years at the top, even someone like Dana can lose motivation, and that is natural for him to begin preparing successors. Makhachev went even further, revealing that he knows Dana is slowly identifying people who will eventually replace him, hinting that a transition within the organization may already be underway. His comments struck a chord with fans who have been wondering what's going on behind the scenes and whether changes at the top are affecting the product. Move on to another news. Rampage Jackson recently revealed during a live stream that his new career as a streamer is far more lucrative than his time in the octagon. He explained that in just 8 months of streaming, he's already made more money than he earned throughout his entire 25-year fighting career. He highlighted that sponsors support him far more now than they ever did when he was competing. Jackson acknowledged his streaming style is wild. He calls himself the biggest degenerate there is, but says that raw energy translates to big viewership. Clips from his streams generate serious traction, sometimes even outperforming the reach of his past fights. His surprising confession underscores just how much the digital age has changed earning potential for athletes. Jackson argued that, thanks to his online presence, brand deals are more aggressive and the return on investment is immediate. He emphasized that while his in-ring days were defined by sweat, discipline, and sacrifice, streaming offers a more direct way to monetize his personality and fan base. With this success, he also reiterated a point he's made before. Post-fight bonuses in the UFC need to be significantly increased, especially now that platforms like Paramount Plus are driving big-time money into the sport. Jackson believes fighters deserve bigger financial rewards, not just for performance, but for the long-term value they bring as public figures. For Jackson, transitioning from a legendary fighting career to becoming a top-tier content creator is more than a new chapter. It's a revelation. The fact that he's making more now than he ever did as a professional athlete highlights a major shift in how fighters can build their brands and income without relying solely on prize purses. Move on to another news. Kamaru Usman is calling out Dana White's recent story about Francis Ngannou, saying the UFC CEO's version of events is hard to believe. Dana claimed that he and Ngannou once got into a physical altercation after Francis grabbed him and demanded a $50,000 bonus. Speaking on his Pound for Pound podcast, Usman reacted to the story and expressed serious doubt about how Dana described the situation. Usman clarified that he wasn't present during the alleged incident, but based on the way it was told, the details don't fully add up. When asked if he was calling Dana a liar, Usman immediately pushed back, saying he wasn't accusing anyone of lying. Instead, he explained that the scenario painted by Dana's story seems unrealistic. According to Dana, Francis supposedly demanded that he go back to his office, pull out his checkbook, and hand over $50,000 while also calling Hunter Campbell back into the room. Usman said that imagining this scene feels exaggerated and difficult to picture as a real event. He pointed out that both men carry a strong presence. Francis Ngannou has an intimidating aura as a fighter, the kind of presence that commands respect. But Dana White also has a significant aura as the head of the UFC, someone people naturally approach with caution and professionalism. Usman explained that because of this, it's hard to visualize the situation unfolding exactly the way Dana described it. While he isn't claiming the story is false, he believes the incident likely didn't happen in the dramatic manner it was portrayed, and that the way it was quoted may have shaped a misleading mental image of what actually occurred.